A good Thursday to you, wherever you are. We're looking at the potential for some southern snow and a pattern change ahead. We're going to talk about that. And here's where we are right now. We're looking across North America. Boy, let me tell you something. I know we're talking a lot about the cold in the east and the really warm temperatures across the west. I get that, right? No precipitation expected out here. But multiple pieces of energy are going to slide in from the northwest with this type of setup across the east, everything avoiding the west. But I'll tell you what's interesting, too. Look up into Alaska, a tremendous amount of wind, rain, and down along the coast, but some snow too, blizzard conditions into interior areas with this really stormy setup. And another thing that's interesting too, with this huge high, everything being forced kind of down here into the tropics. So, I mean, man, are you going to see something tropical develop here in the Eastern Pacific with this type of setup? I don't think so, but what a setup we have across the continent of North America here in January. Okay, let's talk about what you're here for. Maybe this is what you're here for. If you're looking in the West, you're wondering when the cold is going to end. It's not going to happen this weekend. I'm going to take a big picture look, and then we're going to dive into some of the details. Some snow across the Great Lakes into the Northeast. We've also got another clipper moving in from Canada. That's going to bring some light snow across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, into parts of Minnesota, around the Great Lakes. I didn't gloss over what's happening across the Southeast. We're going to really dig into that in just a second. The potential for some snow. It's a mixed precipitation. National Weather Service office also kind of scratching their head like this, going, what the heck? And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Here's what we're dealing with. And I say what the heck is because they're talking about the extreme model differences. I was looking at one of the forecast discussions, and I can't remember which weather forecast office it was, whether it was in Georgia, South Carolina, somewhere in that region. And even they were going, there's a lot of model inconsistencies. It's because the models aren't used to something that happens this far south. So usually the disagreement is extremely much, I'd say much higher. Words are tough today. All right. The cold still sticking around for a lot of the east as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. And now we're looking beyond this. Can something happen across the west? Will this start to break down? There are some signs on the overnight run of the European that there is a little bit of cold and some snow trying to come in. The GFS is maybe not as aggressive with this, but that puts chillier temperatures here. That also takes that energy. Remember how I told you it was riding up and over the ridge? Well, it kind of pulls it into the west. So now we're looking at the west coast, and we're long-term now, okay? Take the date above my head. I don't know that this is going to happen 100%, like maybe like 10, 20% chance that it looks like this. But I feel like there's going to be a change. My chance of that happening, I think, is much higher. Maybe 60, 70% chance of that happening. Now, whether it puts snow across the country like this does, the reason I talk about that ridge breaking down, that energy sliding along wherever the northern extent of that ridge is going to be, is because now you got to watch for something to happen along the northern edge of it. More to come. This is where we are today, though. So subscribe, come back. We'll track it together. Go through this really quickly. Here's the European snow outlook through Sunday across the southeast. Here's the GFS. Looks a lot different, doesn't it? And it's in different areas. I want to show you the latest NAM model. It's not going to show the totals. I think it's too early to talk totals because there's so much disagreement on the precipitation type we'll see. There is going to be some snow, too, up here into the southern Appalachians as we head into Friday night into Saturday across the Cumberland Plateau into West Virginia, across the Ohio Valley, lighter amounts back here. But we're starting to see with this front that pushes east, it stalls, and now something develops along the southern end of it. Precipitation starts to break out. I'm going to go ahead and warn you, the NAM is at the very end of its window of where it picks things up. But notice what it's doing. It doesn't have the snow along the coast. It has it much further to the west. So this is going to get refined, I think, especially as we get into tonight, into tomorrow. It'll look a lot better. And certainly as you get into Saturday, that's at that point, if there's going to be winter storm watches, if you're going to start to see winter weather advisories, that's going to hold off. That's not going to happen this morning. And there's nothing out right now. So there's just too much disagreement. But the NAM, that's the end. Literally, this is the end of the 6Z NAM that just ran early this morning. It's as far out as it goes, 84 hours from the beginning of the forecast time. So it looks a lot different. This is the European ensemble guidance. This is showing the potential for seeing more than an inch of snow, and this uses more than 50 different members. If you want to look at them, there they are. There's the first 25. There's the next 50, and the first 25. Here are the next 50. Oh, it's a little bit early, so I got it on the wrong parameter. But anyway, it takes these 50 different model numbers. I'm trying to point and click and do things this morning on the live stream, so please excuse me. The point is, Take all those members, combine them, and this shows you the chance of seeing more than an inch of snow. And you're starting to see this grow. It's weird to see this here in eastern North Carolina. It makes sense considering the NAM is much further to the east. You've got about a 50 to 60% chance on the ensemble guidance of seeing more than an inch of snow. I mean, you're talking about Wilmington, Elizabeth City, Raleigh, Durham, Myrtle Beach. I mean, down to Augusta, Tallahassee. Do you get in on it? I mean, it's going to be so close here. But you look at the NAM. Look how much further north it is, and it's a plain rain here. So stay tuned. I will be watching this closely. This is something that I geek out about. So if you're weather geek like me, come back. We'll track all this together. But yeah, look how far this goes back to the west. At least the ensemble guidance still hinting that something might happen across western parts of the panhandle of Florida. And across the west, nothing happening here through Tuesday. That might change, though, by the time we get into the following weekend. Okay, let's get a little closer in on the action here, and we'll track these pieces of energy as they bring the snow and the potential into the south. Here's where we are today. Okay, we've got some snow showers, snow squalls. Some of those could be heavy today, by the way. Early in the day through West Virginia, snow squall warnings were out earlier. They'll likely start to wane as we move through the evening hours, and then snow showers continue into the northeast. A pretty widespread area of light snow. I'm going to call it that. It's going to be really windy, though, as this low drops in from the northwest toward the Great Lakes. By the time we get into Friday, out ahead of this, there could be a decent burst of snow. And then as that low drops into Wisconsin, behind it, cold air rushes in, some light snow shower activity. And then watch out ahead of this front. I mean, it's going to be a front moving through here. So there could be a burst of snow along this front Friday night into early Saturday morning from Ohio, West Virginia, down into Western Virginia. Now we're pushing that cold air, check it out, all the way to the south. Here's your front, right along the Gulf Coast. Here comes the energy. This is what we're watching, guys, by the way. So I'm going to back this up. Right here it is on Saturday. It's way back up here into Western Canada now. So this thing has to ride in from the northwest, this piece of energy, which is doing nothing other than bringing a little bit of light snow into parts of Colorado. Do we get a little bit of flurry activity into Oklahoma? Maybe with it, but it's some cold air aloft. And once this thing hits the Gulf, that's when it starts to do something. It starts to dig and it rounds the bend, so if you will, and the European tries to bring this thing up the coast and it hugs the coast. It really suppresses things. And, I think you still got to watch this into the northeast. We're talking about Monday. It is Thursday morning. So some time to refine this. And again, where this thing ends up in the south will dictate what happens clearly in the northeast. Behind this, low spinning through the Great Lakes. I do want to show you the GFS before we continue out in time just to compare it. There's that snow again. I think you got to watch this area here too for some snow Friday night into Saturday. It doesn't look like feet of snow by any stretch, but a couple of inches. And then there comes the energy into Texas. The GFS looks a lot different. It's got the snow into, boy, it's got the snow into New Orleans. It's got the snow all the way down to the Gulf Coast of Mobile, all along the Gulf Coast. Not quite like last year. Remember, we had a ton of snow. This isn't that type of setup. At least it doesn't look like that to me as of right now. But it's much further to the interior areas. It keeps it all rain along the coast with a quick maybe shift to snow. And it's a little heavier too. So that's the early morning run of the GFS. I haven't actually looked at last night's run. I want to look at it. Very similar though. It's a little bit further inland. And that gives you a northeast snowstorm too, right along the coast. This is where it gets even crazier. Look at the Canadian model. All right, I want to show you the total differences that we're seeing here. The Canadian model says, forget the south. This energy is going to ride up the coast and develop a heck of a coastal storm into the northeast. One of the discussions from the National Weather Service literally said some models show a significant snow across the south. Some show none. There's your none. Here's the snow over the next couple of days, 48 hours or so, taking you through Saturday. Again, some snow into the mountains here, up in New York, up into western New York, where there could be some significant lake effect. And then downwind of Lake Michigan, we'll get some snow as well. The blended data trying to show something. This is, again, blending multiple models, so your outputs could be dramatically different pending the track of a storm. But the fact that it's hinting at some snow accumulation at that point in time is interesting. Across the south, it'll do the same thing here. This is all pretty confident within the short range. That's the thing about this particular model. This is what you would want to look at within 24 to 48 hours of snow accumulations. Beyond that, then it just takes everything and smears it. It flattens out all the other options, and the further out in time you go, the wider the solutions get, so it's not quite as impressive. This is the deterministic look at the European. This is it will do this or it will not. These are the extremes, but this looks pretty good to me, at least through Friday and Saturday across parts of Canada down into the northern U.S. And look, some of the snow could get heavy here into parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin once it's all said and done in and around the Great Lakes. Again, lake effect's going to be a big deal too, but as that low drops in from the north, there's going to be at least some decent snow here through Monday across parts of Wisconsin. Interesting to see this print on the European too. I'm going to back it up and just let you see how it accumulates across this area through Friday, now through Saturday, into Sunday. So it's not going to be like you're going to get 8 inches of snow all at once. It's going to be just several systems across this region. Here's a look at your temperatures, which will be a big deal. Cold moving into the south and into the southeast, into Florida too, and in the northeast, and the mid-Atlantic. And everybody on this map, it's just a cold pattern. Temperatures below average through Friday. High temperatures on Friday will be a little bit warmer across parts of the mid-south. Up across the north, still cold, but arguably a little bit warmer. Here comes the next shot of cold as we head into the weekend, moving into the upper Midwest. But look at Saturday, how warm it's going to be across the southeast. Once the front moves through, now you've got the cold. And I'll tell you something else to think about. There actually could be, depending on how this sets up, even a couple of the discussions we're talking about, there could be some freezing rain potential, some ice. So it's all on the table with something this, I'd call it different. Models are having a hard time. I think it gets better, though, especially tonight into tomorrow. I love the NAM. People trash the NAM a lot of times, but I do like it once it gets in that 60-hour time frame or so. Right now, it's right at the end of its vision, if you will. Cold air moving to the Great Lakes. Look how cold it's going to be, too. My gracious, we're back below zero. Winter's not over across Wisconsin, into Michigan, into the Northeast, into the Appalachians. Really cold. Overnight lows dropping into the single digits. Highs, I had to back this up a minute. We're getting into the single digits at night, but highs on Wednesday are probably going to struggle to get, I guess it was Tuesday, struggling to get above zero in the far northeast. So there's your Tuesday afternoon high temperatures, also up around the Great Lakes. Overnight lows dropping into the single digits to near or below zero. A little bit warmer for Wednesday, and then we start to shift the pattern up. It warms up some, compared to what it's been across this region, as the overall models try to shift to something different. Across the west, super warm. Look at that. Texas, 70s, up to Oklahoma. Colder weather, though, on the way. Chillier, anyway, back into the 40s and 50s, and that drops south. And the real cold hanging out up here across the northern plains, across Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. Across the west, another arguably, when can you call it hot? Is 80 hot? LA, San Diego, maybe? Warm in the interior areas across the Great Basin as well. Very snowless this winter. I get it. One of the lowest snow seasons on record in some areas. Maybe some change on the way later, but for now, that's what we got. All right, subscribe, come back. If you're new to the channel, I'm Travis. Welcome. I worked in TV many, many years ago. I've been out of that business so for a while. I was a chief meteorologist. And at my heart, guys, I'm a weather geek, okay? Maybe you're like me. You like tracking these things. You like talking about some of the details of why we're seeing the differences that we're seeing, for example, like across the south and with other storms coming too. We do severe weather tracking, all the things. Subscribe, come back, be part of the community. Leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Love hearing from you guys. Have a great Thursday. See you next time.